Hi everyone, welcome to Blarney Castle and Gardens, and for this week's video I wanted to start off here in our lower arboretum in what is our wildflower meadow, and it always comes to life in the spring. The first thing to really come up and show itself are the Camassias. So we planted 5,000 of these Camassias in here I think 3 years ago now, and they're really starting to establish well, and you can see it's swathes of blue. It's a beautiful shade of blue as well, and sitting along the riverside next to the castle as the backdrop, it's just stunning. This is slightly damp ground, which suits the Camassias nicely. It does flood in the winter when the river gets up, so there's always fairly damp ground, and you know, as a meadow right through the year, then it supports a wealth of species, not just plants, but huge variety of insects and animal species living in here as well, which is obviously great for our biodiversity. But one of the first focal points in the spring are the Camassia, and simply stunning. I'm going to show you 3 different areas today. We started here. I then want to whiz over to our azalea beds because they're just starting to put on a show. We then do plant of the week, and then I want to show you another swathe of blue, some of our native bluebell woodlands, which I did say last week that we'd get to see soon enough. So I'll see you in a minute at the azalea beds. So we've now arrived in our Belgian beds, which run along either side of the road between the mansion and the castle in the upper arboretum. Now, the oldest parts of the beds date back to the 1880s, 1900s, and were planted at the time of the building of the mansion house itself. But they've continued to develop to this day. In only the last 5 or 6 years, we've added the new beds on the right-hand side, which you'll see as we walk down. But this time of year, they're just starting to come out, and over the next few weeks, weather permitting, they'll really start to peak, and you'll see they're absolutely stunning. And the colours here are very hard to beat. They really are the showstopper on the estate when they're out. So I think we'll pop down and I'll find 1 or 2 particular areas that are looking good at the moment. So here's another good shot to illustrate the colours around me. These particular azaleas in our front beds tend to be evergreen varieties. We also have deciduous azaleas which are in the back beds set back beyond, and they tend to come into flower slightly later in general, but again still giving a great show. So staggered flowering is always good because it lengthens the time that we're actually getting a show. But I stopped on this particular bed because I wanted to show you the Acer as well. This is one of our Japanese maples, and it's actually not only a beautiful tree but very noteworthy because this is the champion Acer palmatum for Ireland. So probably dates back to the original planting of the beds in the 1880s, and great autumn colour, but also great spring colour, because this lovely vivid green, it's almost like a lime green when it first comes into growth. It is just beautiful. So just straight Acer palmatum, variety of Japanese maple, and you can see these are normally associated with small potted trees or bonsai size things, but this one's a little bit bigger. So we'll carry on anyway. So here's one of our deciduous azaleas on one of the back beds, and you can see these are just starting to open as well, and different kind of animal, equally beautiful. But if I can kind of pull up a good flower, they do depend on the frosts holding off. This time of year there's always a risk of heavy frost, and should we get late frosts, it often does huge damage. You'll see the bluebells in behind me as well on this bed, and some of the back beds, the bluebells, the wild garlic have crept in from the woods and got really well established, which is wonderful, and we're happy to encourage that. One last thing before we move on. I've been asked a few times, why is this area called the Belgian Beds? Well, it's a simple answer really. It's the original stock plants came from dealers in Belgium. So it's that simple. So we're now in one of our native woodland areas, and this path that Paul's actually on filming us runs just through the woods from the lake and cuts through the woods. The main reason we put it in was the bluebells. and you can see they're just coming into flower now, and we're literally surrounded by them right through these woods. And this time of year, the native bluebell is hard to beat, and just beautiful little flower, and you can see it loves this type of area and localities. So before we go, I wanted to obviously introduce plant of the week, so I'm going to pass you over to Mike, who's going to talk about one of his favourites, and hopefully we have a few of them in stock down at the plant sales area below as well. So I'll send you over to Mike now. Thanks.
Hi everyone, and you're very welcome to the Fairy Glade this week. And for this week's plant of the week, it's going to be Brunnera macrophylla Jack Frost. So you can see it's all surrounding me here. It's this lovely blue forget-me-not-like flower. It flowers in April and May, and for the rest of the year you have lovely foliage. So if Paul wants to quickly zoom in, you have lovely silver grey-like foliage with the green veins running through it. So you have that for the rest of the year, and then for April and May you have beautiful colour here. It'll grow in most soil types, and it likes to be in partial shade or deep shade. It grows to about 1.5 feet, and it'll spread to about 2 feet wide. And it's great for a shady plant, shaded area, and adds some great colour to your spring garden. So that's this week's plant of the week, which can be got below in our plant sales area, which is just inside the turnstiles. So that's Brunnera macrophylla Jack Frost. So until next week, when we have a new plant, see you later.
And I couldn't finish this week while we're talking about bluebells without bringing you down here. We're just at the back of our mansion gardens here, and again, I don't really need to describe it, you can see it for yourself. It's this time of year, I'd say this is one of my favourite spots on the estate, and you can see why. This ancient beech tree we have behind us provides a whole habitat for a host of life, but obviously the bluebells are well suited underneath its canopy. The tree itself is estimated 300 to 400 years even, and it's a veteran and a stunner. So thanks very much, and I hope to see you in the gardens over the coming weeks.